Bollocks. Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Football Fix. I am Richard from the Dipsy Dudes, and game week 6 is here, which means game week 5 is behind us. Thank God for that. Am I right, comrades? Last week was not the points orgy that game week 4 was. I mean, if I had to describe game week 5, I would probably say it was frigid and flaccid. But it's a whole new game week. It's a fresh start and a whole new amount of opportunities to grab points. But before we preview game week 6, let's look back at the dream team for game week 5. It's the classic fantasy 3-4-3 formation, with Leicester providing 2 of the strikers with an unbelievable 21-point haul from Vardy. And the 0.3% of managers that had him will be loving that. I'm thinking that must be made up of like family, friends and people who clicked autofill in game week 1 and then never logged back into their team again. 4 assists, a goal and full bonus points made him the must-have man that nobody had. His striking partner was next to him, with Alua grabbing 2 goals to make it 5 in 5. I've been talking about the virtues of this man for quite some time, and even if you've missed the boat so far, don't worry, he's still under 6 million at this point, and he is quickly looking like that must-have bargain of the season. He's even made it into the overall dream team. He is also the highest point scoring player in the game today, excluding Diego Costa. Just make sure, if you do have him, make sure he's in your team. Don't leave him on your bench. Kieran Gibbs made only his 2nd appearance of the year and grabbed 10 points with a clean sheet, assist and a bonus, alongside Wes Brown and Leighton Baines, who has earned 22 points in the last 2 weeks, though more on the Everton defence later. In the midfield, Sterling continued to look the real deal. Di Maria scored big again despite Manchester United's capitulation. Ozil finally hit some form for the first time this season, and James Morrison was a surprise package with a goal, clean sheet and full bonus points. Right, that was then, this is now. It's time to look at the players for your consideration for game week 6. Despite the big Chelsea players disappointing on the points front against Man City last game week, look for that to change when they face Aston Villa at home. To be honest, take your pick of any of the players. You can go for Costa, you can go for Fabregas, you can go for Ivanovic, you can go for Courtois. Any of them will do. I mean, they've scored, what, 16 goals in 5 games so far, so take your pick. You should be looking to Southampton again as they take on QPR, especially in defence. We've spoken in the past about the virtues of Nathaniel Klein and Bertrand, but what about the man between the sticks? Fraser Forster. He's £5 million and he's had 3 clean sheets in the first 5 games. And they've only conceded 3 goals in those 5 games, making Southampton the best defence in the league. Plus, Forster's only been selected by, what, less than 4% of managers out there, so you can get the jump on other managers in your leagues. On the flip side, QPR have only scored 3 goals so far, whilst conceding 11. So look for another Saints clean sheet and the midfielders and attackers to get on the scoreboard. On the flip side, Everton have been useless in defence. It's time to dump your Everton defenders and Tim Howard if you haven't done so already. Excluding Leighton Baines and to a lesser extent Seamus Coleman, because they can make up the points with their attacking abilities. They've conceded 13 goals in the opening 5 games, which is absolutely shocking. Despite Liverpool's lack of form at the moment, I still bank them to grab some goals. Look at Sterling to continue his really good form. But seriously, you need to get off Everton. Nearly 18% of people have selected Tim Howard, and all those that have stuck with him in the first 5 games have been rewarded with 8 points. It's time to dump the big man. Conceding 3 goals against Crystal Palace was the last straw. It is time to cut him. Danny Welbeck grabbed his first goal and assist of the season, and I'm expecting more of the same from the £7 million plus striker. He's got a good shot conversion rate with a goal every 4 shots so far this season. Over his career, it's a goal every 2 shots, and added to that, he has a pass completion rate of over 90%, which helps when he drops off slightly to link up with the attack-minded midfielders that Arsenal have, and that'll allow him to get more assists with layoffs and so on. Look for that to continue against Spurs this week. There's something off about Man City this season. Apart from Aguero, only Jovetic has scored more than 1 goal. Aguero is the only player they have who has scored more than 20 points in the game so far. As for assists, only Navas has got more than 1 so far in this campaign. And as for the defenders, they've only got 1 clean sheet between them. I mean, you know me, I always fancy Hull to grab a goal. But you've got to think at some point Man City have just got to start clicking, right? At the moment, the players, from a purely fantasy football point of view, are overpriced for the rewards that you are getting. I mean, who's the dependable captain out of them? Maybe Aguero? The thing they've got going for them is that Hull have yet to win at home this season. They've drawn 2. Can they turn it around this game week? I don't know. I do not know. Finally, Man United at home to West Ham. Get on Di Maria to get double points again this week. He's had 14 and 11 the last 2 weeks. He's going to do it again. Probably a goal, maybe a bonus, an assist as well. Get on him. Apart from that, the Man United defence aren't going to keep a clean sheet. That's a given. I imagine West Ham will try and deploy Alex Song to bully Daley Blind in that defensive pocket. So stick with your West Ham midfielders and attackers, particularly Noble, Sacco and Stuart Downing, who has been a revelation since moving into this new role they found for him. You can get on any of those 3 West Ham players for 5.5 million, so it's low risk with the potential of high rewards. Final thing before we move on, and I'd like to talk to you seriously for a little bit. Has this ever happened to you? You're bored on a lazy Sunday afternoon or a quiet Thursday night. You just happen to log in to the fantasy football and you're looking at your team and you think to yourself, I wonder what it would take to move Sanchez into my team, or I wonder what it would take to move Fabregas, or Costa, or Di Maria, or Ramsey, it doesn't matter who. So you go onto the transfer page and you start doing a little bit of tinkering just to see what it would be. Suddenly it's 45 minutes later and you've spent 16 points on transfers. You don't know what happened. It's like you were in a trance. It's like you were passed out. You were in a fantasy daze. That, my friends, is called fantasy transfer blackout, and it can happen to any manager at any point in the season. To counter this, there are a couple of things you can do. Never log in to your team unless you have a clear plan of what you're going to do, because fantasy transfer blackout, or FTB, can be a season killer if not treated. And now you know, and knowing is half the battle. The Dipsy Dudes Divisional Championship. For the first time this season, we have some familiar faces in the top 3 as Jesse's Giants power their way to the top of the league with a 64-point game week thanks to making Di Maria captain. Rentawag dropped down to second as they didn't even beat the Herbie rule, harmed, like a lot of managers, by Costa only getting 2 points as captain. Finally, a new entry in the top 3 sees Yaya as a no-go after a 56-point week, despite only earning 5 points from 4 defensive players. I was beating the Herbie rule until Frank Lampard turned up with that bloody late goal. Is there anything worse than late goals costing you good provisional points? It does my nutting. Right, that's about it for the Fantasy Football Fix this week. Thank you very much for joining us again. Remember, if you like what you see, click the old like button, leave us a comment, or hit the old subscribe button as well to ensure that you get the latest Dipsy Dudes videos as soon as they're uploaded. Remember that the Dipsy Dudes Divisional Championship closes its doors this weekend. 11:30 this Saturday is the cut-off for new members. So join now and don't be disappointed. Until next week when we do it all over again, good luck with your game week because it is game week 6. Let's have a big one, shall we? Boom!